Hello and welcome back. What does it take to start over? Not because you have to, but because something deeply meaningful, perhaps this inner voice, is calling you forward. My guest today, Lorraine Whale, spent over 25 years working in leadership and human resources roles across multinational organizations. But alongside the boardrooms and business strategies, there was another quiet passion growing, one rooted in family, story, and heritage. Lorraine is now a qualified genealogist and house historian and the founder of Time Flies Ancestry. She didn't just pivot careers, she reshaped her entire sense of purpose. She left behind a somewhat predictable path and stepped into something personal, creative, and yes, at times a little scary too. In this episode, we explore what it takes to turn a long held passion into a viable business, the emotional side of tracing people's histories, and how it changes your own. Why reinvention isn't about scrapping your past, but building on it truly. And how courage often comes quietly in the form of small decisions that honor who you are becoming. Whether you are deep in a career transition or simply wondering if it's too late to try something new, Lorraine's story will meet you with grace, wisdom, and a lot of encouragement. So here's something to think about before you head into our conversation and throughout as well. What part of your story might still be waiting to be written? Well, shall we dive into the conversation? Enjoy. Hello and welcome. I've got a person with me here today who I've met in person before and who I at least somewhat know. Lorraine, it's fabulous to have you with us today.
Thank you. No, it's lovely to see you too.
And you know what? When Jules said you should invite Lorraine to come onto the podcast, I was like, why haven't I done this before? There is so much to feel inspired by, to learn from you, to explore together with you. And something tells me we may be running out of time, but let's see. Let's start first of all.
Let's see how it goes.
Lorraine, I'm going to delve right into the conversation with a question that might make you feel ever so slightly uncomfortable right away. Let's see, because the question refers to leadership, in particular, me seeing you as a leader in your life, at work, in your business. And I wonder what your perception is like. Do you see yourself as a leader? If so, how?
I don't think I've ever seen myself as a leader, which is why I was quite surprised when you asked me to come on to do the podcast with you. A lot of people think about leadership as just being the boss. And I've never considered myself to be the boss. I think for me, it's about giving other people confidence to do their own jobs. And to be part of that team and contribute to that team and create a level of trust in yourself and in the business and in other people as well. I don't know, maybe I'm being overly humble, maybe it's imposter syndrome or something, but I've never really considered myself to be a leader.
And the definition you've just shared in terms of building trust, giving other people confidence, to achieve what they want to achieve or achieve the common goals is what I would add to it as well, is something that I'm sure you have been doing, in particular in your corporate roles.
I hope I have. And I think the only thing I can think about is that people would come to me to talk about issues that they had, ask for support, ask for guidance, and ask for my point of view. So, yes. Yeah, that's the only way I can think about it, really.
I love that you are so humble. And at the same time, I find it so astonishing that you gave us the perfect definition of leadership. That's very much focused on getting the best out of others, being supportive, strong relationship building through trust, and so on. And yet you still say, I've never seen myself really as a leader. I see this gap, of perception. with regards to how you perceive yourself and how I clearly see you. And I hope throughout this conversation that we're going to have together, every listener will see what kind of leader you are. And that's why I invited you.
Yeah, and hopefully you'll help me to bridge the gap between your perception and my perception.
I will do my best. And Lorraine, in order to give our listeners a good understanding for not just who you are, and we are definitely going to explore that, but also what you have been doing in your career over the last, well, I want to say 2 decades at least. What's been your career journey?
I think I started off my journey not really knowing what I wanted to do.
Mm.
So I started off working in lots of different administrative roles to start with. But I worked in sales, I worked in marketing, I worked in legal, I did events, and I eventually thought I need a career as such. And I started working for a large organization just as an HR assistant, worked my way up through the organization and decided actually I quite like working in the HR field because you could get involved in lots of different things. It wasn't just about disciplinaries and grievances.
Mm.
I worked with recruitment and selection. I worked with compensation and benefits, and I did a lot of work with international assignments as well. So dealing with lots of different people from different parts of the world
Mm.
coming in and out of the organization. So that did take quite a long time. It took me quite a long time to get to the point where I thought, yeah, actually, this is the route that I want to go down. And like, I mean, like in most things in life, things go well for a while. Then there's a downturn in the economy and there's redundancies and your career goes up and your career goes down. But somehow I found myself working with a very large Japanese multinational where I stayed for 13 years.
That's a long
Um,
time.
yeah, it was. It was an awful long time. And considering I only signed up for a 3-month contract,
Mm.
um, I think I did quite well. And learned an awful lot about working with Japanese organizations and European organizations as well. And, you know, met some very nice people along the way too. I got to the point where I think I started falling out of love with HR as a profession. I'd always liked genealogy as a hobby. I think I started looking into genealogy when my son was born, so that was he's 24 now, so it was a long time ago. And I think, like most genealogists, you start off as a hobbyist, doing your own family history, and then I thought I really enjoy doing this. So I started, you know, doing genealogy for, you know, friends, other parts of the family, probably boring people to death, actually. Um,
I'm not
but
sure about that.
I, I was really enjoying it, but knew that there was a lot more that I needed to learn. So I signed up to do a genealogy qualification. After a couple of years, I decided, no, this is really the direction that I wanted to go in.
Mm.
Um, I moved job at the same time, so I was
Mhm.
still doing a full-time job in HR. But I worked for a different organization, and I had a little bit more time to myself. And also, my son was growing up a bit as well. It took me 4 years to complete a genealogy higher certificate, and then another year to do a diploma. And by that time, I really thought, this is where I want to go. This is where my career is going next. But I knew that it was going to take me a really long time to do that. So I made sure that I had a plan in place. I knew that I wouldn't be earning as much money in genealogy as I would be working in human resources. So I planned to downsize my house and also pay off my mortgage, which was no mean feat actually, considering I was, you know, just it was just me,
Yeah.
just me paying off the mortgage. But I did. It took me probably 5 years to qualify, and then another couple of years after that to start building my business. And by this time, I had moved into the area of learning and development with my previous organisation, and I was also working 3 days a week. So I could combine building up my genealogy business
Mm.
with working in HR, at the same time.
Yeah.
And then, the opportunity. I think a lot of people think of redundancy as a bit of a threat, and but it wasn't for me. It was an opportunity that basically said, "Off you go. It's your time now to move over to becoming a genealogist on a full-time basis," which I did.
Mm.
And I've been doing this full-time now for the last 3 years,
Wow.
and I love it.
Has it already been 3 years? That's
Yes,
mad.
it has. It has been 3
Wow.
years.
I There's so much about your story that I really love. A, it's non-linear. B, I'm going to go back right to the start. You started out in different functions, in different business units, in different places, and I think that is a huge gift to actually learn different traits, different skills, dealing therefore also with different stakeholders, personalities, and nobody can take that away from you. Adore you, and you hopefully know that for being able to build your career, follow your path, raising your son at the same time, which I can only imagine has been fabulous on the one hand and challenging, hugely challenging and hard on the other hand. And then always keeping a focus on feeling into you. What does that feel like, what I'm doing right now? Because you said twice in your story, oh, I just knew in this moment that's what I wanted to do. First with HR, and then with your genealogist education, and now running the business as well. And I wonder, how did you know that these areas, these roles were what you wanted to do more at that time with HR and what you wanted to do for quite some time with the genealogist role? How did you know?
I think with HR, I think I suddenly found my place. And I think it was because I was working with lots of different people. And I think that's why I liked working in HR. I wasn't just working with people that were in the office.
Yeah.
I was working with people outside of the office, people that were coming in for interviews, people who were coming and going through the organization because they were doing an expat assignment in Belgium or Uzbekistan or going off to Australia. So I wasn't just getting to know them, I was getting to know their families. So I kind of found my place and the thing that I liked doing.
Mm.
And I think with genealogy, you're still working with people, even though sometimes you think I'm working very much with dead people. Because we're going back so much further back in time. But the clients that I work with, they're the people that I hope will enjoy the research that I've done.
Mm.
And every time that I have an aha moment, I hope that they're going to have one as well.
Yeah.
So I think it was the people side for me, but for two very different reasons.
What has been the, I don't know, most surprising information that you figured out about your own ancestors?
Oh, actually, my ancestors are quite dull. Um, which is probably another reason why I like working on other people's ancestry, because they're a lot they're a lot more interesting than mine. I mean, on my paternal family, they were shoemakers that went back generations. I mean, hundreds of years,
Mm.
and they didn't do very much else
Mm.
other than make shoes.
It's a great
Which
skill to have.
yeah, hugely a great skill to have, but they didn't really do anything exciting. So other people's families have been incredibly interesting.
In what sense?
Oh, I think they've had more adventures. You've people that have gone to sea, you've people that have gone to war, people that have found themselves being transported to Australia, people who have moved from the UK to other parts of the world. And then it's those those descendants that are coming to me and saying, can you find out a bit more about my family and how they ended up in these different countries?
My imagination of your role is that you have to dig deep, doing a lot of research, spending a lot of time potentially in solitude, going through the data, the information available to you before you are back in touch with your clients in this moment. And you mentioned meeting so many different people and building relationships and being in touch with them, in particular in your HR roles, right? How has your life, your work life in particular, shifted, and how are you finding it to be kind of by yourself a little bit more?
Being a genealogist is solitary, but I have a huge network of other genealogists that I am probably in contact with almost daily. So I joined the Association of Genealogists and Researchers in Archives, otherwise known as AGRA. I joined them when I was probably halfway through my qualifications, as an opportunity to network and also as an opportunity to develop my skills, because they do a lot of study days. They have a lot of really experienced people that you can tap into as well. And when I first joined AGRA, I volunteered on various different exhibitions and helped out. And then when I became a member, I thought, well, it's my turn to give my time, some of my time, back to AGRA as well. So I'm actually currently the chair of AGRA, and I'm actually on the board of assessors of AGRA as well. Not quite sure how that happened. But ask a busy person if they've got some time to do something, and that busy person will normally volunteer.
Can I just refer back to how you perceive leadership, humbleness?
Okay.
I see a few patterns showing up here again. Yeah. I want to know so much more about the work you do now, and you finishing off earlier on your career overview with "I'm loving it," spoke for itself. However, I also want to go back for a moment because you touched on so many different little gemstones, basically. I asked you earlier on, how did you know that something was for you? Right. And I'm pretty sure we have loads of listeners who say, I'm not quite sure if that's for me and what I really want to do, and who are wondering, where's their place in the world. Lorraine, you also mentioned earlier on, I started to fall out of love with HR. Now, let me ask you this question. How did you know that you fell out of love with HR? What did you experience at that time?
I've been working in HR for a very long time. The same things come round time after time after time. And I think I got to the point where I thought, I've seen this before. It didn't work the first time. So I'm not really quite sure why it's going to work again. There were lots of things that I was really interested in looking into, but it was very difficult to introduce something brand new into an organization. So, what's her name? Lucy Adams. I think that she is amazing. Disruptive HR, I think it was called. And I think that approach to human resources, it was fantastic. It wasn't recycling the same stuff over and over again, but trying to introduce it into an organization was quite tough, because it's like, we haven't done anything like this before. It's like, come on, let's give it a go.
Yeah.
But it was difficult to do that. So I think it was difficult to get people to look at a fresh approach rather than just recycling the same thing over and over again.
And I'm really curious about your experience within the HR. Here's a bit of context around my question. We both have HR backgrounds, right? That was me as well, in different areas of human resources. And I moved from being an 18, 19-year-old girl who knows the policies and can tell you what the policy tells, to hopefully being a real business partner. I was curious about the business, connecting, as you said earlier on as well, with different people from different parts of the business and on different continents and so on. And I love that. And I had a real curiosity and hunger for business knowledge so I can connect the dots and therefore offer a far better service as well. And I remember one organization I used to work in where some people literally wanted me to stay in my place. Right? It was almost something strange and weird if a HR person had an opinion on business.
Yep.
And I speak in general terms. There were obviously shades of gray and others who really appreciated it, and therefore we worked so well together. And with others where you walked against the other wall and the next wall and the next wall. So that's one part of my experience. And in the last few years since I founded my business, I have coached quite a few leaders who would say to me, I don't even know who my HR contact would be. They might sit somewhere in the Philippines. They have been outsourced. There's nobody I can talk to, or we just have to open tickets and it just feels like talking to a machine. So there's the other extreme of not even having this people support anymore. One topic I often contemplate on is what's needed from a people function in this world. And that's a big question. And I think the answer would start with it depends. But again, I'm curious about your perception with all your experience within the HR function. What makes a great HR team?
It is being that business partner, and helping to, well, not even helping to, but working with the leadership team to improve the business. It's not just focusing on the people side. It's not just focusing on the tough stuff that some managers don't actually want to deal with.
Yeah.
HR are not there to crack the whip or to carry out the policies and the procedures. The department is there to support the business and to make the business successful. But I think there are very few organizations that think about things in that way. And that the whole ticketing system that you've just mentioned is probably one of the worst things in the world. We are not a deli counter. We are part of the business. And a lot of those ticketing issues could probably be dealt with by the leaders themselves and not by the HR team. I remember saying to one of my colleagues once, not an HR colleague, but a management colleague in the business, that the human resources function shouldn't actually exist. An organization should have key functions like learning and development, compensation and benefits, but the actual core part of HR, or most of what a lot of leaders consider to be core part of HR, is actually a manager's job, and it shouldn't have to have a separate department to do that. And yes, I was probably, talking myself out of a job, but nobody ever came back to me and said, "Oh no, 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 no! Of course, you're absolutely right. We don't need an HR department." No, nobody ever said that.
No, unless you want to start your business finally and leave with a nice redundancy package.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I think some HR colleagues, and I have a few on my mind now who I respect so much, and yet they get in their own ways. And I think I was there before as well, being almost too, well, obedient is the wrong word, but too much in service.
Yep.
All right. And I believe HR is there, if you have the HR function, to challenge, to bring in different perspectives, to what you said, bring in a more innovative approach as well, for a reason, obviously, with a clear purpose to improve the business, to drive something forward, to make things more efficient, whatever it is. Right. But what I often notice is this, yes, let me do that. Let me take it over. And you see leadership meetings when there would be discussions and the leader would say, well, because HR haven't done X, Y, and Z. And as an observing coach, I'm often like, what the heck? There's something to talk about afterwards in this group, because there has to be a real mindset shift on all levels. The leaders, the HR function, actually, in order to achieve exactly what you've just described.
They need a seat at the table right at the beginning and not halfway through. And I think a lot of times somebody says, "Oh, has anybody invited HR to the table?" "Oh, no." And they're like, 3 months into a particular project. And then HR get to the table and say, "Oh, that's brilliant. Have you considered X, Y, and Z?" "Oh, no." Anyway, that's why I fell out of love with HR.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do get it, 100%. I got to a point at some point where I said, "Can I influence and impact more by not being in the organization, and do more from the outside as an, if you want to call it, expert, as a
Yes.
consultant?"
Yeah.
And my experience is yes. And
Which is great for you and great for your career, but it should be done from the inside, shouldn't it?
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what you have people for. Again, from your observation, what are the key traits, skills, personas that HR should really kind of embrace? What's needed there?
Tenacity,
Mm.
a proper seat at the table. They need to be part of the organization and not an afterthought, which HR very often is.
Mm.
It's actually been quite a while now that I've really thought about HR. It's really strange how quickly I've been able to shift from that way of working to the way that I'm working now, and I don't miss it. I miss some of the people that I used to work with, but I don't miss working in an HR function.
It wasn't quite the shift. So I move out of HR and now I'm running my own business, because you have prepared for it well. And you've been working on it for years, basically, while
Yes.
still being in HR, right?
Yes.
And earlier on, you talked about a plan. You talked, for example, about thinking about finances, downsizing, for example, to make sure you set yourself up for quote unquote success. You have mentioned the education, the whole educational route that you went through as well to really learn your trade. Now, I wonder, what else did you plan and prepare for throughout the years?
Well, outside of genealogy.
No, to actually start the business, because you have been in HR, but you started to plan for it, right? You started to take small steps, and you mentioned a plan early on as well. So, what was on the plan to make sure you can live the life you live now and do the work that you enjoy so much?
I had a very large Excel spreadsheet. Um,
It's
and it was
getting more and more exciting.
I know, it is, isn't it? But it's like each time I hit a milestone, which was, passing a particular lecture in my qualification, paying off another chunk of my mortgage, you could see the time frame going down. So I had a goal. I had a
Mm,
goal of being able to do something by a particular time. And it took me a long time to do. You can't suddenly switch
yeah.
from doing one thing to something that you're going to love doing overnight. So, have you ever seen The Shawshank Redemption?
Yes. Yes, I have. My husband asked me the same a few months back. Remind me who's in it, though.
Oh, do you know, I can't remember his name. But it's basically about a guy who's in prison for a murder that he didn't
Yes.
do.
Yeah.
Yes, his name's Andy Dufresne, and he had a plan. Didn't tell anybody about it, but
Mm,
I'm gonna. Is there a spoiler alert now?
yeah. He gets out.
Sorry. I'm glad you said that and not me. So yeah, he had a plan to escape. My Excel spreadsheet was like Andy Dufresne's plan to escape from Shawshank prison. It
That
took him
tells a lot.
years. It took him years, and it took him a lot of posters, covering up the hole that he was cutting away in the wall.
Step
And
by step.
yeah, but step by
Mm,
step, month by month, he he finally did it. And I kind of that's how I feel about my escape from human resources. No,
yeah.
it's not quite that bad. That's what it feels like. it's that achievement. It's like I have a goal and the goal is over here somewhere, but I've got to start from somewhere. As long as I had a countdown and I could see something was happening, then I could see that time approaching.
Mm,
It was becoming nearer and nearer,
mm,
to the point where I just thought, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be able to do this next year.
mm.
I'm going to be able to do this in 6 months' time. So yeah, I never thought I would ever equate my life to the Shawshank Redemption, but that's kind of how I feel about it.
I love the metaphor. That's kind of finally got out of prison. Here we go. But man, did I scratch through this wall. You've highlighted a few points that are proven through research as well, right? Have a strong goal that you
Mm,
literally feel in your bones. And
yes,
I smiled inside and outside a little bit because it just showed how much you wanted what you have now, right? Willing to know it takes years, it takes study time, quite a significant amount of study time, and doing my HR role at the same time, and looking after at this time a boy who's become a man in those last years, and making sure he's on a good track, on a good path as well. So there are very significant roles that you juggled at the same time. And I'm going to say it again. If you have a strong goal that you can see in front of you that offers you some sort of, I don't know if it's for you excitement, Lorraine, or what the right word would be, that keeps you going. That
it
gets you going.
does. Yeah, it does, and that's what kept me going, that goal. And for some people, it might take 2 years. Some people, it might take 10. But it's about figuring out what it is that you want to do, and
Mm,
not just waiting around for things to happen to you. When I worked in learning and development for a little while, I had lots of conversations with people about their career plans and what they were going to do. And I would say that the majority of people were waiting for a promotion, waiting for that next step up the ladder. But if they were asked, what if that doesn't happen? There was nothing else that they could say.
mm.
Do you remember Squiggly Careers?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
I remember talking to people about squiggly careers and being so excited because that's the way that my career had been.
Mm,
I've worked in different parts of an organisation. My career was never straight up that career ladder.
yeah.
It was like snakes and ladders. Sometimes you'd go and you'd hit the top of that snake and you'd go back down again.
Yeah.
But you'd pick yourself up and you would start thinking, right, okay, well, that didn't work out. What am I going to
Mm,
do next?
mm.
But it's always about having a plan and having a focus. Yet remaining unfocused is just going to be frustrating, I think.
Mm.
What if that person whose shoes you want to step into is never going to leave, or they're going to leave only when they retire? What are you going to do with your time? What are you going to do with your ambitions and your skills and your experience? How are you going to build on that if you're just waiting to step into somebody's shoes?
And on top of what you were saying, that I fully agree with, there's also this part of, do you give yourself enough of a chance to actually identify what you really, really want? Because if I follow this traditional trajectory of climbing up the ladder, right, and going from one role to the next, what is driving it? Is it this real sense of I can have more impact in a role up there? Brilliant. Okay, what's the impact you want to have? But for example, in my case, my first years were also going in this direction. Oh, I want to have the next level. I want to earn a little bit more. I want to have more impact. Okay. But it didn't really make me feel happy, fulfilled.
Mm,
It was always a short term thing to feel good about myself. It was like the pat on the back. And that made me feel good. I got acknowledged, yes. Didn't last long. And only when I realized for myself what I actually wanted to do, which also meant I'm going to openly say, I don't need to go up there, right? There's something else I want to do. It felt literally liberating. And
yeah.
suddenly I could see what options were there and that I had choices.
Yeah, I think it's a scary prospect sometimes, stepping out of your comfort zone and thinking, if I move sideways into a role that I'm not familiar with, if I don't like it, how am I going to get back? But it's not necessarily about getting back. It's about thinking, oh, okay, well, that didn't work. Where can I go next? What have I learned from this that will help me make my next move? And that's what I like about the Squiggly Careers philosophy. It's about your own personal development and not just getting the pat on the back. So what have I learned from this? Who have I met? If I stay in that, linear career, I'm only going to meet the people that are in this particular function. Whereas if I go outside of that, I might meet other people who are going to be able to introduce me to other things. I'm going to be able to learn from them. So it's a huge amount of opportunity. But yeah, it's scary at the same time.
It is scary, and it is, for me at least, fun as well. But now you've got to do it a few times, I believe, in order to get into your groove. You learn more about yourself. You start to ease up a little bit. And then it feels enjoyable as well, because we can step into this childlike sense of creativity, figuring it out, seeing what's going to happen, bringing in the curiosity, learning, falling, getting back up, learning, as you said earlier on. But you've got to start experiencing it. I think that was one of the key learnings for me. And then you can get into this upward cycle. Yeah. You kind of go in circles sometimes. You learn a lot from it. And sometimes it might feel like, oh, we are stagnating a little bit. But then you notice suddenly it goes further up. And you can take all of those learnings and experiences with you. And you will feel more confident and stronger.
Yeah.
And that is beautiful.
Yeah, because they're your learnings.
Yes.
They're your experiences, and they are things that you can refer back to when you are in a completely different role. And you can think, oh, if I consider this from the point of view of somebody in logistics versus somebody in sales, would I come up with the same solution, or would I come up with something different? So it's about being able to look at things from different perspectives as well.
For everybody who wonders currently about what's my next step going to be, there are a few really important points being shared to think about. What is this first small step you can take, right? You don't have to change everything overnight. None of us, Lorraine or I, have done that. I had a similar approach. 3 days, I went part-time at some point and started to build the business, for example. But it doesn't even have to be starting a business. You can try a different role through an assignment, perhaps, in the organization, some job shadowing to get a better feel. There are so many ways, but it's important to start to open up about it, see who you can talk to about it, and take, as I mentioned, small steps at the time. And always pause and reflect and see, all right, and what have I been experiencing here? How do I feel about a certain situation? What could be the next step, for example? So give yourself that space as well to delve deeper, would be my recommendation.
I actually asked myself, do you want to retire working in the HR function? That was the question I asked myself, and the answer was no. So then the next question was, so what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do that will stop you from being that person that retires in working in a function that you don't want to work in anymore? So it's really looking quite deep inside yourself and asking, what is it that you really want to do? And it's not going to happen overnight. But if you plan to do something that you really want to do, and you have a focus, whether that's an Excel spreadsheet or whether that's something else, you can see how you are progressing towards that goal. And that's the most important thing. Don't just do nothing.
And regret that later as
Absolutely.
well. You just said something that I found extremely interesting. Would I want to retire in HR? That's a tough question. That brings discomfort to me right away. But it's this discomfort that's needed. That brings this real, raw honesty into the mix as well, right? It's like you live in a bad relationship and you kind of know you may want to get out of it, but at the same time, it feels comfortable at this point of time. It would feel uncomfortable to take steps to get out of it. And until you hit that wall where you say, okay, it's got to change now. And when you ask yourself the question, would I retire in this space? That is that moment of, all right, wake up call. You've got to do something. Now, I'm going to ask you about your current career. Do you even think about retirement at all?
No, I don't. I think it's something that I can do for as long as I want to do it, and as long as my clients want me to do it for them,
Mm.
because I enjoy it so much.
What is it exactly you enjoy so much? I can literally feel the love for what you do. What is it about it where you say, ah, that's just fabulous?
I actually like the problem solving. So I get a lot of people that come to me and ask me to put together some family trees for them. It might be a gift for for a family member, but more often than not, I will get people that say, "I've done part of my family history and I'm stuck. Can you help me to find out about, you know, great Uncle George?" And that's what I find exciting. It's looking at what has been done and what is possible to do. And actually, with all of the education that I've done, all of the genealogy education that I've done, I know where to look. Or if I don't know where to look, I will probably know somebody that can help me because of the great networks that I have through AGRA. So it's that research, it's that attention to detail, it's the problem solving, and it's about making people happy. It's the immediate feedback that you get from people to say, "Oh my god, that was brilliant. I'd have never have been able to do that." My Google reviews are really good. I'm not very good at blowing my own trumpet, but my Google reviews are really good. Um,
You sound so surprised.
I know, I am so surprised. And I think, it's like working in HR for so many years. You get your annual appraisal where, you're told you've done a really good job or you haven't. Just having that immediate feedback from people about, what you've been able to give to them. And I think that's why I enjoy my job so much. And
Mm.
also every single day is a school day. I learn something new every day.
And you work hard.
I do. I do. I mean, sometimes I can work 7 days a week, but I'm not working 9 till 5, 7 days a week.
Mm.
If I fancy going off for a walk or going for a swim or going to the gym, I will. I will go off in the middle of the day and do that.
Yeah.
But I know that, and I think that's the other good thing about working for yourself is that you can set your own timetable.
I didn't know if I ever shared that story with you. I certainly have shared it on the podcast, but I remember at some point in the first year after leaving my HR role, I sat on a Saturday in a coffee shop and I worked on a design for a workshop. And time was literally just flying by. I completely lost track of time. And when I got back home, my husband said to me, you have been working for quite a bit of time. Did you go shopping or were you really working?" And I was like, it doesn't even matter as to whether I would have done the one or the other because none of it felt like work. And I sat in this coffee shop, I was working away and it was proper flow. When
Yes.
time it just is flying by, you feel like you don't want to stop. You're just on a roll, and you're learning while doing that, and it's just brilliant. It's a wonderful experience. Full
It
stop.
is, and it's not just me. I mean, my genealogy colleagues say exactly the same thing.
Mm,
They are in the flow, and before they know they've been sat at their desk for 4 hours, and the time has just gone like that.
yeah. How lucky can you be to experience that
Oh,
at work?
I'm so fortunate,
Yeah.
absolutely fortunate.
So here we have Lorraine, who says, I've never seen myself as a leader, who has made a real career shift, may I say, slightly later in life as well, which I find inspirational too. Who has created a plan, followed the plan. I'm pretty sure not everything just went to plan all the time. So therefore adjustments are needed along the way. And here she is saying, I don't even think about retirement. I just love what I am doing. Can we now revisit again how you see yourself as a leader?
I, st- I still don't see myself as a leader. I just I just see myself as being pretty fortunate to be doing a job that I love doing. So if that's leadership, then so be it. Yeah.
And you said to me earlier, and I hope that you can help me close that gap or narrow that gap a little bit of perception of self and perception by others. Leadership for me starts with yourself. How you lead yourself, how you lead yourself in your life and take action. And everything you spoke to with regards to you've got to take the first step. Nobody else is going to come to you and say, here is a ready-made plan for you, and that is your career. We can all stay in misery, noticing this is not the place for us, or we do something. And throughout your life, not that I've known you for your whole life, but it seems like you have taken steps.
Yes. Yeah, I would say my entire life, actually. I've thought to myself, "Oh, no, I'm not gonna be doing that." It's like, "Okay, well, what are you gonna be doing instead then?" So that's the question that I think everybody needs to ask themselves. If you're not happy doing what you're doing, what are you gonna do instead? And like you said, you can wallow in misery, or you can say, "Okay, right, that's it. I'm gonna do this instead."
And one of those key parts of your life has been to be a mom and to raise a boy along the way while building your career as well. And I'd really love to finish off our conversation delving a little bit more into this topic because, yeah, as I said a few times now, I find it inspirational. I think there's a lot to learn from your experience, and I would love for you to share with our listeners a little bit more about your different roles that you stepped into at the same time and how you managed to raise a kind and I would say even goal orientated boy as well.
Yes, I mean, Sam is now 24 years old. I'm really not quite sure how that happened. He's halfway through a physiotherapy master's, and so clearly I'm very proud of him. I've always been a single mum, and I think there's always, and there still is, stigma attached to single mums.
Mm.
Not necessarily single dads, sorry, but you know
Mhm.
that's the way that it is.
Yeah.
Um, and it has been tough at times. I think there was a point when Sam was about 18 months old. I was made redundant from my job, and we'd just gone through some financial crisis, and there weren't actually that many jobs around. So it took me a while to get another job. And the job paid, I think it was about £20,000 a year less than I was
Wow.
being paid for my other job, but I needed I needed a job. So I did that. And that was the 3-month contract that turned into the 13-year, job with the Japanese company. Um, so things sometimes happen for a reason as
Mm.
well, I think. So I thought 3-month contract, oh, it's not paying very much money, but it will pay the bills for a time being. Um, and I've been really lucky. I've always had a really good network of friends and family around me that have helped. Um, so, working in a senior role within a large multinational obviously meant some travel, a fair degree of travel, whether it was in the UK or whether it was overseas. So I was, reliant on my friends and family to help bring up Sam.
Mm.
So don't they say something about needing a village to raise
Mm.
a child? That was my village, my tribe, and I'm eternally grateful to all of them. It was tough at times when you get stuck in a traffic jam on the M4 and you're thinking, I'm not going to make the after school
Mm.
club.
Yeah.
Just
The guilt.
ringing. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it comes with the territory.
Mm.
You get delivered a baby and you get delivered guilt at the same time. You don't get delivered a manual, unfortunately. So I mean, I always had to work very, very hard because it was just me. But I do remember one point. I think because I had to work 9 till 5:30 to fit around the school times. I would very often work in the evenings as well. And I do remember Sam saying to me at one point, "I see more of your laptop than I do of you," which was like a bit of a stab to the heart.
Yeah.
So I think it was also at that point that I did start thinking, there's got to be something more. I
Mm.
can't, I can't just let my son think that all he can see of me is a square screen as I'm,
Yeah.
tapping behind it. But I think also he got a very strong work ethic from me. So there have been some good things that have come out of it as well. But we're good. We're good together. We get on very well together, which is nice. So we can go out for a meal together and we can have a chat. We could just talk about anything. So yeah, it's worked well. Tough start, but yeah, I'm very proud of what he's achieved, and I think he's pretty proud of what I've achieved as well.
Do you say that to one another?
Yes, definitely.
Good. You mentioned it takes a village, right, to raise a child.
Yes.
And I couldn't agree more. A, B, what else was really important to build this, what sounds like an incredibly trusting relationship to Sam?
I think we've always been open with each other. Never tried to hide anything from him.
Mhm.
And yeah, sometimes, bringing up a child is difficult. I do remember, sort of like there's some disciplinary issues. Um, he had a games console, as most young teenagers do, and he wasn't doing his homework at some point. He was on the games console. So I think one morning I took the cable to work with me. And he got home from school and he rang and he said, "Mum, where's my cable to my Xbox?" I said, "It's in my handbag." I said, "If you're not going to do your homework, then you're not going to have your games console."
What did he do? Did he buy one? Did he borrow one from a friend, or did he
No,
just
no,
do
he
the
did.
homework?
He did his homework.
It sounds playful. He might not have perceived it in that moment. Sounds like it to me.
No, he probably didn't think of it as playful at the moment as well. He knew that I meant it. It's
Yeah.
like, if you don't do something, then I'm going to have to do something. So actually, the cable wasn't in my handbag at all. I just put it under his bed.
Here we go.
Yeah, exactly.
I could imagine that if you live in this constant tension between, traveling, work commitments, trying to be the best mom you can be, that the one thing that's most important, but probably most neglected, is self-care. And by self-care, I'm not talking about, Lorraine, you now going to the nail salon and getting your nails done. I'm talking about having some proper time for yourself. I don't know, to read, to be whatever it's got to be for you. Was that even possible for you? If so, how did you manage to do that?
Occasionally, I'd be able to get away. So the odd weekend, probably a couple of times a year, I could go off to a spa, which would be lovely. But yeah, no, not very often. Didn't really get that much time to myself, to be
Mm.
fair. But that's
Checking it.
just the way that it is, or the way that it was.
I was just about to say, I think that's hard to build it in, and for every or anybody who is experiencing a similar situation where you are constantly torn between the one and the other, and it could be that you care for elderly parents at home, for example, right? It could be anything. It's important you build in some time for yourself, and it doesn't have to be the spa weekend. It could be I have half an hour ritual for myself in the morning or in the evening or whatever, where I can just take a deep breath and be. Will that change everything, how you feel about yourself and building more clarity? Probably not, but it is an important start as well. As we said earlier on, one step after the other. So please look after yourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I used to invite friends round for dinner, so I couldn't
Ah,
go out very often. So I used to invite friends round for dinner, and we'd have something nice to eat and a few glasses of wine. So that was
which
my
helps.
way of That was my way of relaxing as well.
Lorraine, if you were to give one final top tip to our listeners about careers, about purpose, being a single parent, whatever it is, what top tip would you leave them with?
Find something that you really love doing and do it. Just do it. It will make you happy. It will be fulfilling, but find that thing that really makes you light up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Lorraine, if people say now, I need a Christmas present, I want to, learn more about my family history, how can they find out more about you? Where can they connect with you?
They can connect with me on my website through www.timefliesancestry.co.uk, or you can find me on the AGRA website. So that's the Association of Genealogists and Researchers in Archives. Or you can just Google Hampshire genealogists and you'll find me under there.
There she will be. And Lorraine's contact details will also be in the show notes. So if you weren't able to follow AGRA and what it all stands for, don't you worry. We've got your back. We will be sharing it with you. But for now, Lorraine, it's been wonderful to have you with us. Thank you so much for opening up about your path, your journey. You may not believe it, but I'm going to tell you there will be loads of listeners out there who say, okay, now I'm going to take this first step. I'm going to do something because of what Lorraine shared here. So thank you for it.
No, thank you for inviting me on.
And to all of you out there, you know what's coming. I want to know, what is that first step you're going to take? What is it that literally makes you feel buzzing and like really passionate about? What are you going to do? What makes you say, I don't even think about retirement? Let us know. I want to be inspired by you. Perhaps we can be of help for you as well. So do get in touch. And for now, I'm going to say good luck with it. Enjoy the path and the journey, and speak to you again very, very soon. Bye-bye, everybody.